Hey everybody. In the next lesson, we're going to get into actually writing our script, which looks like this. So we go to our scripts folder. It looks something like this. So what I wanted to do in this video is before we get into this writing our script, I wanted to do a basic review of like what while loops are, if statements, and variables, and what a dictionary is. So what I'd like you to do is click on 3D here, and there's a tab here to create a new scene. And again, if you're coming from Unity, a scene is essentially like a prefab. You can think of it that way. We're going to click Other Node, and we're just going to create a generic empty basic node, and that's this first one. Just hit Create. And then on this node, we're going to attach a script. Actually, what we'll do is let's just name this like Logic Playground. This will be where we go to test out and learn how to code stuff. That way, when we click our Create New Script here, it'll automatically name it Logic Playground, and it's just going to throw it in here. But I want to make sure that I navigate to my scripts folder, and I'm going to hit open. You might have to create a scripts folder. And the way to do that is to right click here, go to create new, and then create a script here. All right, I'm going to control and then scroll in and just show you we'll just go through some very basic programming. All right, so the function here is, like we talked about before, sort of a reusable block of code that we can use over and over again. And inside of here, what function ready does is it essentially is once this script is seen and or shows up in the scene, or the game object that this is attached to is in the scene, it'll run anything that's within this code first. So if I save this and I'm just going to let it save as Logic Playground here, open up my output by clicking right here, and I hit F6, and there we go, starting Logic Playground. So what's happening here is inside of our script here is right at the start when this script runs, it sees this print statement and it's just saying starting Logic Playground. So a lot of times when you're testing code or prototyping before you refactor code later, you'll just throw things in sort of a start or an update function, or in this case, this function ready, just to make sure things are working and moving forward. All right, so let's go ahead and create another function here. And this one is going to be called function test if statement. So this is how we learn about if statements. And I'm just going to print from here, hello from if statement. Hello from actually if function. All right, let's save this. And let's hit F6 again. And you'll see starting Logic Playground. But you might be wondering, well, where is that other if statement? Like, why isn't this running? Well, there's two parts to a function, and I know I covered this in the last lecture, but sometimes repetition is okay. What you can do is you have to first create your function like this, and then you call your function. So the way you call it is you just copy this name with whatever your parameters are, and that's these guys right here. You paste it here. Now when I hit Control S to save it, and I run this by pressing F6, you'll see that we get starting Logic Playground, hello from if function. So now it jumped because of this statement. It printed this first. It jumped into our if statement here. So let's review really quickly variables. So let's just create a variable, and it's called player health. Pretty generic. We kind of always sort of use some sort of player health thing depending on our game. I'm going to make it of type integer, and I'm going to make it equal to 15. And if I want to, I can just print to the screen, you know, player health equals, and then space, and then here I'll add a plus sign, and I'll add the variable player health here. What this does is this this operator here, it adds something to this, right? Now, what this is trying to do is print a string of letters, and it's telling us here like, hey, you're trying to print a string and an int, and it doesn't work that way. In some other programming languages it does, but just in GDScript it doesn't. So what we have to do is we sort of have to refactor or reset the data type of this player health and just take whatever it is and convert it into a string. So don't forget your double quotes. So let's save this, and then I'm going to press F6 again to run this. And now you can see player health equals 15, hello from if function. So let's just keep piling along. So we know what a function is, we know how to call functions, we know how to set variables. Let's go ahead and just create an if statement that's based on player health. All right, so here we have our if statement, and it's saying, hey, if player health is less than or equal to 0, we're going to print the player has been defeated. Well, our player health right now is 15. Else if, which means if this is not true, let's check this one. Player health is less than 25. It's a status critical health warning. Else, if neither of these are true, it's just going to say status healthy. So before I press play, take a second and just take a look at this variable and see which of these are going to be called. Which one of these statements is conditioned to be true, and if true, what will come after. All right, go ahead and pause it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press F6 and see which one pops up. And what we get is critical health warning, and that's because 15 is certainly less than 25. So that's what if statements are essentially used for. All right, another thing we're going to be using in when we go to search our CSV files is while loops. So here I have just a function statement called test while loops, just like we did with our test if statements here. And what I'd like to do inside of this is just say something like printing test while loops. So we know that we are jumping from inside of our if function to now we're going to be using this. So let me pause the video and insert that code. Okay, so here is our test while loops. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my function ready up top. So here we go. So we have test if statements, test while loops. Let's save that. And I haven't done my while loop yet, but I just want to show, hey, this is where we currently are. And this n in the beginning is going to bring us to a new line. And then I'm just creating two variables I'm going to use for the while loop later. Let's test that. And you can see testing while loop, that new line gave us that /n here, gave us a new line. And maybe we should put that in at the start of every one of these. Let's see. Here, probably a good idea. And I think that's okay. So now when we run this, we'll get a nice clean code to read in our console. Starting logic, hello from if function, and testing while loops. Okay, so I thought a cool example of how you use a while loop is recharging shield, right? So what happens with while loops is they keep looping until a certain condition has been met, right? So I thought it'd be kind of cool to show like we would show like a shield charging up sort of inside of our output or our terminal here. So what I want to do is let's grab this one here. Like we're testing our while loop function, and then we'll make a new line, and it says something like recharging shield. And then we'll put a comment here, loop start or something. So this is just so we know, and then loop repeats until current shield is charged. I went ahead and paused it so you don't have to watch me type all this stuff out at like 4 in the morning. So here we go. We have our while loop, and it's saying, hey, while our current shield here, which is 0, is less than our max shield, we're going to increment the current shield. So this is a shorthand way of writing essentially this right here. So should have just wrote it out the other way, which is current shield equals current shield plus 1. So let me comment out this one just to show you. So this is a shorthand way of just writing this. So if I leave this how it is here, and I run this, it's going to take whatever the current value of shield is and add 1 to it. So right now it's 0. And it doesn't mean you're bad at math if you're like, wait, what are we talking about? You're learning to code as well as doing basic math within it. So sometimes this can be confusing for really anybody, not just students. And so as it's going through, it's going to print out, hey, what is current shield to our scene right now. As we saw before, we kind of have to convert this to a string value, but let's convert that. We zoom out a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to get an extra error here. So we'll take current shield value, we'll print it out as a string, and then it'll go through. It says print shield is fully charged. It's important to, this line is unbelievably important here. And I have to stress this so you know that like while loops must have a code inside of it that eventually changes the condition, like this line of code, right? Where we're incrementing current shield, and it has to eventually, current shield has to essentially be less than max shield, which is currently 3. If the condition never changes, the loop runs forever and it freezes Godot in like an infinite loop. And this will do that for any program. So just letting you know. So let's save this. Let's open up our output. And I'm going to go ahead and hit F6 on my keyboard or press play. And you can see here, shield charging level. Can I zoom in here? How do I expand this out? Let's see. Sorry, I'll try to see if I can expand this when we're in the editing phase. But it says, as we run through this loop, it's 0 here. We add 1. And then it prints out this first one, and then it's like, well, is 1 less than 3? Because remember, max shield is 3. No, it's not. So boom, boom, 3, and then once the condition is met, we exit the loop. Notice that the print statement is outside of the while loop, and then we say shield is fully charged. All right, everybody, I think this is a good place to stop. I think in the next video we'll just do maybe one more. I mean, I think that is the next video will be the one more where we cover dictionaries and looping through dictionaries, just as sort of a review. I do have a programming class, and most of the classes have some level of programming in it, so you'll see a lot of this across Unity, Unreal, or Godot, and they have dictionaries in all of these languages. So please don't stress if you're like, I'm not a programmer. It's all about learning a language and then repetition and practice. And then once you really get it down, in the sense of you've practiced enough and you've done enough things, then you could sort of create your own way of coding or break the rules. And a lot of people end up starting with trying to create their own language, or starting to create their own art before they even learn the basics or the fundamentals, and then they give up and they say, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not a programmer, I'm not these things. When the reality behind it is you need to get yourself in a really good solid foundation before you could start thinking about ways of creating and being creative on your own with these things. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and in a couple lessons we'll jump back into programming our game.